Gemini, April 2026 is a turning point. From a major career launch to a financial shakeup and a relationship decision that changes everything, this month brings 5 non-negotiable events. Here's what you need to know to navigate the chaos and come out ahead. Chapter 1. Gemini Career Breakthrough. Let me take you back to the very end of March, specifically March 29th. That was the moment a solar eclipse struck in Aries, lighting up the part of your chart that rules your networks, your long-term goals, and your public standing. Now here's the thing about eclipses. They don't just whisper. They grab you by the shoulders and turn your head towards something you can no longer ignore. If you're a Gemini, that energy doesn't fade when the calendar flips to April. It intensifies. For the first 2 weeks of April, you're going to feel like life is moving at double speed. A conversation you had months ago suddenly resurfaces. An opportunity you thought had passed, maybe a promotion, a high-profile project, or a complete career pivot, comes back around, and this time it's serious. Here's what makes this different from a typical job offer or career shift. This eclipse is what astrologers call fated. That means it's not random. It's not something you can postpone without consequence. The universe is essentially handing you a moment that says, it's time to step forward. You might feel unprepared. You might feel like the spotlight is too bright. But this event is designed to align you with the path you were always meant to walk. By April 10th, the dust settles and you'll look back realizing that this opportunity was actually set in motion 6 months ago. So what does this look like in real life? For some Geminis, it's a job offer that comes completely out of left field. For others, it's being asked to lead a project that puts your name in rooms you've never had access to. And for a select few, it's the moment you finally stop playing small and announce something bold. A business launch, a public rebrand, or a creative work that demands to be seen. This is your invitation to stop hiding your ambition. Now, before we dive into the next event, which involves a major financial shakeup you absolutely need to prepare for, I want to ask you something. If you're the kind of Gemini who wants to stay ahead of what's coming, not just clean up the mess afterward, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Tap the like button too. It tells the algorithm that you're serious about your growth, and it makes sure you don't miss the rest of this forecast. Chapter 2, Gemini Money Surprise. If the first chapter of April was about stepping into the spotlight, this next one is about what's happening behind the scenes, specifically in your bank account. Now, I want you to imagine something. You're going about your day, mid-April rolls around, and suddenly, out of nowhere, something shifts. Not slowly, not gradually, suddenly. That's the energy of Uranus, the planet of shock, disruption, and liberation, making a very loud statement in your financial world. Here's the astrology. Between April 12th and 15th, Uranus is sitting right on top of the North Node, the point of destiny, in the part of your chart that rules hidden income, debts, inheritances, and the money you don't talk about at dinner parties. At the same time, Mars is firing off a tense square to Pluto, adding intensity, pressure, and a sense of urgency. What does that mean in plain English? It means your financial life is about to experience a plot twist. And here's the thing about Uranian energy. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't give you a heads up. It simply arrives. For some Geminis, this will look like a windfall. Maybe you've been quietly working on a side project, something you haven't even told your closest friends about, and suddenly, it generates real income. Or perhaps an inheritance you thought was tied up in legal paperwork finally lands in your account. Royalties, commissions, a forgotten investment, anything that was in the background suddenly becomes front and center. But for other Geminis, this same transit can feel like a rug pull. A source of income you've been relying on might unexpectedly dry up. An expense you didn't see coming forces you to rethink your budget. Or maybe you're faced with an impulsive temptation. A shiny new gadget, a spontaneous trip, a purchase that promises freedom but threatens stability. Here's what I need you to understand. Whether this moment feels like a gain or a loss, the underlying purpose is the same: freedom. Uranus doesn't disrupt your life to punish you. It disrupts your life to liberate you from something that was quietly draining you. That subscription you forgot to cancel? That financial obligation you've been tolerating out of guilt? That fear around money that's been running the show without your permission? Uranus is here to break those chains. So what do you actually do when this hits? First, do not make any major purchases between April 12th and 15th. Impulse decisions under this aspect have a way of becoming regrets by the 16th. Instead, use that window to gather information. Look at your accounts. Ask questions. cut ties with one financial commitment that no longer serves you, even if it's small. That act alone aligns you with the liberation this transit is offering. Second, pay attention to what surprises you. If money shows up unexpectedly, trace it back. What were you doing 6 to 9 months ago that planted that seed? That's a clue about where your true abundance lies. If money disappears unexpectedly, ask yourself, what did that expense represent? Was it safety, status, avoidance? The answer tells you what you're being freed from. And here's the quiet truth underneath all of this. For Gemini, money in April 2026 isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about self-worth. It's about what you believe you deserve. And the universe is about to show you, in very concrete terms, that you deserve more than you've been settling for. By the time this chapter closes, you won't look at your finances the same way. And that's exactly the point. Chapter 3, Gemini Conflict Alert. Now we arrive at the week that will test your patience, your communication skills, and your ability to keep your cool when everything inside you wants to burn it all down. Let me set the scene. It's the week of April 20th. The energy in the air is thick. Mars, the planet of aggression, action, and argument, is moving through Leo, lighting up your third house of communication, siblings, neighbors, and your daily environment. At the same time, Mars is locked in a tense, unyielding square with Pluto, the planet of power, control, and deep-seated intensity. When Mars and Pluto square off, subtlety goes out the window. What was simmering beneath the surface boils over. A small disagreement becomes a full-blown confrontation. A passive-aggressive comment escalates into a power struggle. And because this is happening in your third house, the battleground is close to home. So who are you clashing with? For many Geminis, this will involve a sibling. Perhaps there's an old wound between you, something that never got resolved, a childhood dynamic that still carries weight. Under this aspect, that unspoken tension finally speaks. And it speaks loudly. For others, the conflict may arise with a neighbor or someone in your immediate community. A boundary that was crossed. A noise complaint that turns personal. A property line dispute that suddenly feels like a matter of principle. What makes this tricky is that you can't easily walk away. This person is in your daily orbit. And for a significant number of Geminis, this confrontation involves an authority figure. A professor, a lawyer, a boss. Someone who holds power over a decision that affects your freedom. And here's the thing about Mars square Pluto. It brings out the part of you that refuses to be controlled. You will feel an almost primal urge to push back, to assert your independence, to prove that no one gets to tell you what to do. But here's where I need to give you some hard-won astrological wisdom. You are right. Whatever the argument is about, chances are you have the facts on your side. Your logic is sound. Your position is justified. But being right and winning are not the same thing. Under this aspect, your words carry the force of a weapon. And if you swing too hard, you might break something that cannot be repaired. This is especially important because Mars also rules your 7th house of partnerships. That means this argument, whether it seems to be about a sibling, a neighbor, or a boss, may actually be a proxy war for tension in a romantic or business partnership. You're fighting about one thing, but the real issue is something else entirely. Something deeper. Something about power, respect, and whether you're being seen for who you truly are. So what do you do when the pressure hits? You pause. You take a breath before you send that text, before you say that sentence, before you slam that door. You remind yourself that some battles are won by not fighting them. You postpone any legal signings, any binding agreements, any irreversible decisions until after April 25th, when the intensity begins to ease. And you ask yourself one question: what am I really fighting for? Because if the answer is freedom, there is a way to claim it without burning the bridge behind you. If the answer is respect, you may need to walk away from people who refuse to give it. And if the answer is simply to be heard, then say your piece once, clearly, calmly, and then let the silence do the rest. This week will pass. The power struggle will reveal what needed to be revealed. But how you navigate it will determine whether you walk away with a wound or a lesson. Chapter 4. Gemini Communication Fix. If the previous chapter felt like walking through a storm, this one is the moment the clouds finally part. Let me be honest with you. The first 3 weeks of April have been messy when it comes to communication, especially in your professional life. Misunderstood emails, delayed responses, conversations that felt like you were speaking 2 different languages. Maybe you blamed yourself. Maybe you thought you weren't explaining things clearly enough. But here's the truth, it wasn't you. It was Mercury retrograde. Since mid-March, Mercury, the planet that rules your mind, your voice, and your very identity as a Gemini, has been moving backward through Pisces, lighting up your 10th house of career, reputation, and public standing. Translation: every professional conversation has felt like wading through mud. Decisions got postponed. Technology failed at the worst possible moments. And just when you thought you had clarity, the rug shifted. But April 7th changes everything. On that day, Mercury stations direct. That means it stops moving backward and begins its forward motion again. And when Mercury stations direct, the fog lifts. The email that was lost in the void suddenly appears. The boss who was giving you mixed signals finally gives you a straight answer. The project that was stalled for weeks suddenly gets the green light. Now here's what I want you to understand. Mercury retrograde doesn't just create problems for the sake of creating problems. It forces delays so that when things finally move forward, they move forward on the right track. Every miscommunication you experienced in March and early April was actually the universe protecting you from launching something before it was ready. So when Mercury stations direct on April 7th, you're going to feel a shift. It's like someone turned the volume down on the static and suddenly you can hear yourself think again. Clarity returns. Confidence returns. And you'll finally be able to see the path forward. But that's not the end of the story. On April 21st, Mercury moves into Aries, your 11th house of networks, collaborations, and community. And when that happens, the pace goes from slow to lightning fast. Projects that were stuck for the first 3 weeks of the month suddenly accelerate. Collaborators who were unavailable suddenly have time. Ideas that felt half-formed suddenly come together in a rush of inspiration. This is your window. Between April 21st and the end of the month, you have a green light to launch. That new initiative you've been sitting on? Go. That pitch you've been refining? Send it. That collaboration you've been hesitant to initiate? Reach out. The cosmic weather is finally supporting forward movement. But here's the caveat. Mercury retrograde left behind a gift. While you were waiting, you were forced to edit, to refine, to rethink. Don't throw that work away. The version of your idea that exists now is better than the version you would have launched in March. Trust that the delay was a blessing. So as you move through the final stretch of April, pay attention to who resurfaces. Someone from your past, a former colleague, an old collaborator, a contact you haven't spoken to in months, may reappear at exactly the right moment with exactly the right opportunity. This is Mercury's parting gift, the reconnection that completes the picture. You've made it through the communication chaos. Your voice is back. Your clarity is restored. And just in time, because what's coming next, the final chapter of April, is the biggest one yet. Chapter 5. Gemini Relationship Turning Point. We've arrived. Everything that came before, the career launch, the financial shakeup, the power struggle, the communication chaos, has been leading to this single moment. April 28th. A full moon in Scorpio. And for Gemini, this is the most significant relationship event of your entire year. Let me explain why this matters so deeply. The full moon in Scorpio lights up your 7th house, the house of partnerships, marriage, business alliances, and the people you choose to walk beside you. When a full moon hits this part of your chart, secrets surface, truths are spoken, and relationships reach a point of no return. This is not a casual lunation. This is not a fleeting mood. This is the moment when you are forced to answer the question that's been hovering in the background for months. Who truly belongs in your life? Now here's what makes this full moon different from others. It forms a beautiful, stabilizing trine to Saturn, the planet of commitment, responsibility, and long-term structure. That means whatever happens under this moon isn't impulsive. It isn't temporary. It is the culmination of a journey you've been on for a long time, and the outcome will bring lasting stability. So what does this look like in real life? For some Geminis, this is the moment of commitment. A proposal, a wedding, a decision to merge lives, finances, or businesses. You've been testing the waters, watching, waiting to see if this person is truly your match. Under this full moon you'll know. And you'll be ready to say yes. For other Geminis, this is the moment of closure. A relationship that has been running on empty finally ends. Not with chaos, but with a quiet, necessary goodbye. You'll recognize that staying would cost you something you can no longer afford to lose. Your peace, your freedom, your sense of self. And you'll have the strength to walk away. And for a small number of Geminis, this full moon brings a revelation. Something you didn't know about your partner. A hidden truth, a buried feeling, comes to light. And in that moment of honesty, everything shifts. Not necessarily toward an ending, but toward a deeper, more authentic connection than you've ever had. Here's what I need you to remember. Under a full moon in Scorpio, there is no middle ground. Scorpio doesn't do halfway. This energy demands depth, honesty, and surrender to what is true. You cannot fake your way through this lunation. You cannot pretend everything is fine when it isn't. The moon will pull the truth out of you, and out of the people you're with, whether you're ready or not. So when April 28th arrives, give yourself permission to feel. Let the walls down. Say what you've been holding back. And trust that whatever comes next, whether it's a beginning or an ending, is the universe clearing the path for the love and partnership you actually deserve. April 2026 is your turning point, Gemini. A career breakthrough, a financial surprise, a conflict to navigate, clarity returning, and a relationship moment that changes everything. Mark these dates, trust the process, and remember, you're being guided toward exactly where you belong. If this forecast resonated, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and tell me in the comments which chapter spoke to you most. I'll see you in the next one.